Let's move over to Newcastle, Pete. Do you think they may splash this £50 million on Bryan Mbeumo that Brentford are looking for this January, or will they probably wait until the summer and then reassess their options then?
Yeah, I think it's more realistic that a move for Bryan Mbeumo would come in the summer rather than January. I don't think there'll be massive amount of money spent in this January transfer window. We saw that in last January. There wasn't big money spent by most of the clubs in the Premier League, and I think we'll have a similar path probably in this winter transfer window. Newcastle, obviously, we know, were restricted with their spending in the last summer transfer window due to FFP and everything else. But they do have money there. They tried to sign Mark Gahey, but weren't able to get a deal done for the Crystal Palace man. And Mbeumo is definitely on Newcastle's list. He fits the bill for what they're looking for. That right-sided attacker, an inverted winger who can cut inside with his left foot, score goals, create goals, and he can also play up front as well. So it could be a huge sort of signing for Newcastle if they're able to land him. But Mbeumo is very hot property right now. You've got the likes of Liverpool also interested in him. Arsenal also being mentioned in some quarters for Mbeumo. So yeah, it'll be a difficult race for Newcastle to sign, but I don't think Brentford really want to lose Mbeumo midway through the season. So I think it's more realistic that a summer move could happen for the Cameroon international.
And Paul, Jared Bowen is a name that's kind of being thrown around with Newcastle. Obviously, he is still under contract with West Ham until 2030, so it'd be a hard deal to do. But could you see him fitting in with Newcastle next summer and Eddie Howe's style of play?
Just like I see him fitting in anywhere. He's a good quality player. He's a top quality player, and he's proved that he can play anywhere in that final third. He can play behind a striker, but also this season, at the end of last season, we've seen him play as that number 9. The last twice that he's come on for England off the bench, he's come on and he's replaced Harry Kane as that number 9. I've seen him do it a couple of times. So he's a versatile player. I think it's speculation and, flying a kite, really, journalism. If you're looking to just link him with Newcastle, if he becomes available and Newcastle are at the table for him, they're going to have to break the bank. And with Newcastle's situation there, like Pete said, with the FFP and PSR, it was only 6 months ago we were talking about them selling Trippier, Bruno Gomes, Alexander Isak, potentially they're better players, so they could balance the books up. So if you're talking about a deal for Mbeumo, you're talking about a deal for Jared Bowen. The Jared Bowen deal is going to have to break the bank. There is absolutely no way that West Ham are going to let him go. It's going to have to be a huge, huge deal. And Newcastle are not in a situation. Yes, well, they are in a situation to be able to buy him because they're the richest club in the world. But because of the FFP and PSR rules, they're not in the game for a player like that because of the amount of money it would cost. And like I said, if it was all of a sudden that Jared Bowen became available, I can't see him leaving West Ham unless it's an absolutely ridiculous figure in the region of what Harry Kane left Tottenham for, maybe even more probably.
And Pete, we've talked about Mark Gahey, the center back issues at Newcastle. They're looking to bring one more in, maybe January, maybe this summer. Loic Bade is somebody who's on that list. Could they go for him instead of Mark Gahey, or would he be for a kind of a similar price considering he's under contract until 2029?
Yeah, I think obviously we know Newcastle are in the market for central defensive reinforcements. They tried really hard for Gahey, but just couldn't agree a deal with Crystal Palace. I think Loic Bade, obviously very good young defender, did well with France at the Olympics. He's at Sevilla. I think he'd be a lot cheaper than Mark Gahey. You would probably get him for around the 30 to 40 million pound mark. He's been strongly linked with Liverpool as well recently. We know that Liverpool are looking also at defensive reinforcements, whether in January or the summer, in case Virgil van Dijk fails to agree a new deal. Bade would be a good option, I think, for either Newcastle or Liverpool. And I think Sevilla, not cash rich right now as well, so they might have to take a decent offer for the Frenchman if it was to arrive. But I don't see a deal happening in January for Bade. I think more likely that a move in the summer could happen for him. And as I said, Newcastle could find the deal difficult to do just due to the competition for a signature because of Liverpool coming from as well. It's going to just increase his price tag, and Sevilla will sell for the highest price possible.
And Paul, back onto the attackers front. Gabriel Jesus has been out of favor at Arsenal for a little while now. He's down to 2 years on his contract when this summer comes around. Could you see Newcastle looking to sign him either in January or the summer to kind of shore up those striker positions, the right wing? He can kind of play everywhere across that front line. And of course, Arsenal have had long-standing interest in Alexander Isak, who is kind of struggling to come to a new deal with Newcastle. Maybe a swap deal, maybe some sort of cash plus Jesus deal. What are your thoughts?
He doesn't score enough goals. Simple as that. He doesn't score goals. He can play wide in the different positions, but he's a striker. That's the problem that Arsenal have had. Newcastle, if they were looking at him, if they're looking at an addition, I've said it before, Newcastle went into last season light with just Isak and Callum Wilson with their injury records, etc. Isak's always prone to a hamstring. Callum Wilson, we know about his fitness. They're light in that area as it is. If you're going to sign a striker, you sign one that scores goals. Arsenal are constantly linked with the number 9 because they haven't got an out-and-out number 9 in that team to score the goals. Kai Havertz has carried the can. I think he's done really well. But I still think, we're talking post the Inter Milan game. I think even with a striker with an out-and-out number 9 against Inter Milan, I think they get a better result. I thought they were harshly done to on the penalty. But I think with a striker who scores regularly, they'd have got a result there in Milan. But I think from Newcastle's point of view, if you're looking to replace Isak or looking to add to what you've got, you sign a striker that can score goals. For me, you're going to play Gabriel Jesus out wide, not as a number 9. He doesn't play instead of Joe Linton, and he doesn't generally play on the right-hand side. He'll play on the left. I think there's other areas that Newcastle would look at, in all honesty. I think with Arsenal, with him with 2 years left on his contract, I think he'll be more happy than the club will be, put it that way.